Hi, and welcome to one more episode of Business Got Personal. This is a podcast brought to you by VideoAsk, Typeform's latest tool, and I'm Alex Antolino, its creative director. In this episode, I have a very important topic, actually a topic that you've been demanding on many comments and our content on Instagram. So I think it's about time that we have a conversation about how to build an online community. We're going to focus on how to actually create meaningful relationships through video. And to talk about this, I brought you a frequent public speaker and podcast guest. She's raised almost $200,000 in 2.5 years for charity. That's a lot of money, And she believes in second opportunities, especially with underprivileged people, youth, and members of minority communities. I've been talking with her for a while now, and I can tell you she knows how to build a relationship. And this conversation, I feel it's gonna be very explosive. I have today here with me Alyssa Twist, as she likes to be called. And she's a professional speaker, and you'll see, a creative genius. Hello, Twist. Thanks for being on the show. How are you today?
Alex, I am doing so well, and I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Actually, I really enjoyed last time we had a call and you were talking about a project, which I'm going to ask you to explain in a minute. And you've been building communities for like many years now. And so I think this conversation is going to be very interesting, especially for like entrepreneurs who are thinking, oh yeah, I feel like I should build my online community, but I don't even know where to start or why is it so important? So I think the first question that I want to ask you is, why is it that every single business seems to be interested in building online communities today? Why is that so important?
I think that what the internet provides for us are boundary-less, if you will, opportunities. So opportunities to connect with people that we wouldn't ever connect with otherwise. And so by building a community online, we can go to different places and see different things and be interested and exposed to and learn from all different kinds of people.
Right. So basically, it's like connecting your database, right? In a way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I feel like sometimes for like many years, we've always been interested in like building an audience and like making people, listen to my words and, getting people engaged with my content, stuff like that. And I've seen this trend like over the last years to try to turn that audience, which is literally like individuals listening to you or like having individual conversations with you, into a community, which basically is like connecting them, right, in a way, and building some sort of platform to connect them. So why do you think communities are so powerful?
I think we first need to look at like the intention behind creating a community, because if we look at any kind of movement, be it the wonderful things that are happening in the world or the horrific things that are happening, those people all belong to communities of people who are out to accomplish one thing together. And so the power in a community really lies in, hey, we're all here for each other and we're all here with the same purpose and the same vision. And so when we are able to connect people within our communities, or not just within our circular or our primary communities, but outside of, and say, oh, I have this other community that might really serve you. Can I connect you with them? Then what we're also doing is building relationships and trust with those people. And they can then go on and make other communities for themselves and find other communities that relate to what it is they're trying to accomplish in their lives.
That makes total sense. So I guess, natural question now is like, how do we connect this with businesses and how can business benefit from that?
Oh my God. Okay. So can I tell you a story, Alex? I have a story.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I volunteer with an organization that provides financial literacy to students. And I specifically go into 7th and 8th grade classes. And for our international friends who may not understand that age group, I'm talking about sort of 11 to 13-year-olds, very roughly. And so I have the privilege of going in and talking to them about, how much it costs to live in different places and how do we budget and that sort of thing. And one of the inevitable things that always comes up is, oh, I want to do this job, but I don't know anybody. Like, I want to be a veterinarian or a firefighter, or I want to travel internationally, but I don't know anybody else who does that. And so we have this beautiful conversation, and I love to call it 6 degrees of twist. And I know that people joke 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and 6 degrees of separation, but I like 6 degrees of twist. And so what I do is I stand at the front of the classroom and I say, you need to tell me who you would like an introduction to. And in my network, I will have somebody within 6 degrees of me that could connect you with that person. It doesn't mean that I make the introduction. The point is that the students get to know how big a community can be and how big a network can be if you are a person who is willing to give first. And so I started doing this in these middle schools, and I almost got stumped once. Somebody said the Queen of England, and I had to really think about that one. But in fact, I was able to draw some parallels and connections to her. And so interestingly, I've never been stumped, which is really fun. But this is the funniest part. One of the things I have to say to the students is, I probably have a little more gray hair than you do, which means I'm probably not going to know all the names you're throwing out. So you can't just throw out a name and not tell me what industry they're from. So the requirement is that they have to provide some context to who this person is.
Right.
Anyhow, so I started doing this when I speak. And I've been at association conferences, I've been at luncheons, I've been at all kinds of different events. And I say, great, now we're going to spend 5 minutes and we're going to play 6 degrees of twist. Who would you love to meet? And it's so interesting to see people come alive because they think, oh, I could never meet this person. Like, nobody, how is this possible? It's impossible. And suddenly I say, hey, I happen to know somebody who would probably know somebody who would know somebody who would know somebody. Right? Because that's what the 6 degrees is about. It's about getting started. Right. And so when we talk about building community, it's like, who can you introduce somebody to help them get farther and grow their community? Because then you are seen as somebody who is really trusted and respected because you were willing to help them out with an introduction. And I think that's the beginning of community.
That's awesome. I think that is very interesting. And for brands specifically, being able to own that space, or like not own, but like provide the platform where those meaningful conversations happen. This is like a whole new level of engagement. Like, if thanks to some platform, you're able to connect with someone that means something to you and that has a lot of value to you, in a way, you're building like another relationship with that brand. And I think that kind of like, that's a really good answer. Like, the value of those relationships is somehow transferred to the value of that brand, right?
Oh, it is. And even more than that, I think we need to look beyond, let's say somebody is looking for a new microphone. We'll just throw something out there. Okay. So we have someone who's interested in podcasting and they want to be a guest and they don't know where to start. Well, who do you know that you could introduce them to? Is there a workshop that you could refer them to? Hey, by the way, let me give you this little tip. This is a great mic for this. And so we're not just saying, hey, I know somebody, or hey, I know a thing. We're saying, hey, I have a tip I'd love to share with you. And that, it may not seem like a big deal, but sometimes those little things that aren't always remembered or thought of are the most important. And sometimes, especially in business relationships, what we want to remember and think about are the little things that people share with us that most people wouldn't remember. Do you know someone's children's names? Do you know that they absolutely love hot air balloons or brownies or coffee? Or do they love a certain author and do they have a book coming out? And how could you surprise them and send them something to let them know you're thinking of them? And it could be something really simple. There's a wonderful event planner that I've worked with for a number of years, and she's booked me over and over again to speak. And she had shared with me that one of her daughters was struggling in school because she's a real hands-on kid. And the school that she goes to, especially here in North America, this is very common, where kids are just like, sit at a desk and do what I say. And that's not the way her daughter's brain worked. Well, I was on a trip to Florida and I was in a bookstore. I love bookstores. And I was in a bookstore, and I always love, when I travel to different places, to look at what the local magazines are, because there's often really interesting ones or just different ones.
I love that. I love doing that too, to be honest.
Yes. And so I found a magazine, Alex. I found this magazine that had all sorts of really interesting projects for kids that they could learn how to do something that they're taught in school from a textbook, but that they could learn how to do it. They could make things with things that they have around their house. So it was sort of this little sort of engineering science sort of project magazine, but really put a different kind of spin on it. And it was, I think I paid $20 for it. And, you know, she never forgot that I gave her that for her daughter, right? She never forgot. And her daughter has an unusual name. And so being able to remember her daughter's name, write it down properly, and give her this gift changed everything. Because it went beyond, hey, I care about doing business with you, to, hey, I hear you and I see you as a person. And I just want you to know I was thinking of you when I was away.
Right. That's a beautiful story. And it kind of like shows the way, how powerful are those meaningful connections when they go over, you know, the transactional part of like building a business. Do you want to tell us briefly about the last project you did for the trans community?
Yes, I would love to. So I had the privilege of working with an organization called Spectrum, which is in Waterloo region where I live in Canada. And my business was chosen. We put a proposal in to develop a directory of transgender friendly services in our region. And I was so excited to be part of the project. And it's just launching right now. We've done all the back end work. And so now the organization is putting the final touches on it before it goes live. So I'm very excited to tell you about that. And we actually used VideoAsk to develop relationships and get information from not just the trans community, but service providers who wanted to be part of the directory. So we used it in a really interesting way. I think a lot of people, when they use VideoAsk or video services, they want a video back. And there's this like expectation there. And when they don't get a video back, they're like, nobody records me back videos. I don't know why I'm doing this. And there's this like whine about it. Instead of putting on our curiosity glasses, which I love. Alex, do you have curiosity glasses? Can I see them?
I do. Whoa. They're brand new. Got the new version yesterday.
Well, let me tell you, they look fabulous.
Thank you.
So I say to people, like, put on your curiosity glasses. What if you asking the questions you ask in the way that you ask it is the part that builds the relationship enough that people trust you and want to respond? And you're giving them the choice to respond in a way that feels safe to them. Are they responding by text? Are they responding by audio? Are they responding by video? Does it really matter if they don't record you a video back? No, they've chosen to interact with you because they felt safe enough because they saw you on video. And that's what's so important and magical about video.
Right. Because I think one of the things I really like about our previous conversation is that you were talking about the fact that video builds that special connection. And even though, like you said, even though if you don't get a video back, it's already working in a way because you got that response that maybe if it was just text wouldn't work. So why do you think face-to-face interaction is so important, and how can video help you enhance that?
So I think one of the things we need to talk about, can I tell you another story, Alex?
I love stories. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was speaking, this was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I don't do a lot of events for young people, but I do a Rotary event almost every year. And I say almost because right now, of course, we're not running events.
Right.
However, there was a young lady in the front row and she looked at me like this for the entire speech. And I thought that she was bored out of her tree. And I have to tell you, in a room with 150 people, when there is a single person right in front of you looking like this, it's really difficult. And she came up to me after, Alex, and she was like, Twist, you are the best speaker I've ever seen. I couldn't take my eyes off you. Oh, I thought you were bored. And so I think that there needs to be, right? First, we need to have a conversation about misinterpretation of text, but then it also happens to us when we are in person. And so it's really important. The more we can be in front of somebody, the more we can understand that different facial expressions can mean opposite things, or the same facial expressions mean opposite things, the more we can interact in a way that's really powerful. Because I couldn't stop and ask her, hey, Sam, I didn't know her name was Sam at the time. I met, of course, knew after when she came up to speak to me. But I was like, Sam, are you okay? is your face frozen? Because we're real life. The internet is not frozen. Like, what is happening? And so I think that when we are able to see people, when we are able to interact with people, and doing that through video can be so important, because what happens when we do that is people can see our intention. You know, there are so many different ways to read the word stop, right? We could go, stop, 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 right?
Yeah.
If it's just text, how is it that we're supposed to understand what that means? And so sometimes when I write emails, because I have people who prefer, email because they want to be able to read everything I say, even though I love to send video emails, as you know, Mr. Alex.
Yeah.
Sometimes at the top of an email, I will say, please read with this tone, as this is how I wrote it. Please read with a gentle tone, a curious tone. And I actually set up the email requesting that somebody hear my voice as I'm writing with a specific tone.
Hold on, I need to stop you right here. This is so interesting. Like, to everyone watching, if you're watching this, I'm really curious. Have you ever thought about doing something like that? Or have you done something like this? Because if you have, please let me know in the comments, because this is like the most mind-blowing thing. I mean, when you're writing an email, you literally like put a sentence saying, oh, read this with like this tone or something like that, like literally on that email.
Literally.
That's super smart.
First line of the email, I will bold it. Sometimes I put it in a color. If I know that this person tends to skip or skim emails, I put it in big, bold text at the top in a different color so they can't miss it.
So I love it. It's all about the intention, right? And it's all about like showing your intention, which of course it's not so obvious sometimes with text, like you explained, but it is much more obvious, even though it can be misinterpreted, but it's much more obvious with video. I think that's like pretty clear. But also there's something I want to touch on, which is like, especially when building communities, there's a lot into it that is all about building relationships and building healthy and powerful relationships that are, like you said, based on trust. And so I think one of the ideas that I really like about your story on building that repository for like the trans community with services that are friendly for the community, I think there was something into the idea of vulnerability, right? And how by showing yourself first and being, because when we're on video, we're vulnerable, right? We're even more vulnerable that when we're on real life, right? Because it's recorded, like people can rewatch it. So if I made a mistake now, you forget, but now it's on tape and people will rewatch my mistake. So what can you say about that? And with your experience on building communities, what's your experience in terms of like showing vulnerability with video to build trust?
Oh, this is such a big question. I'm probably going to have a lot of answers, just so you know. I'm going to have a lot of answers. So the first one is, video can either be a connector or a disconnector. And so I think one of the most important things for anybody who's trying video out or who has tried and it hasn't worked, one of the most important things you need to know is you're probably boring on video if it's not working. And if you're boring on video, you're not going to get a response. And it can be really difficult to know that you're boring. Speaking from somebody who used to be boring on video.
Hold on, I need to stop you here because this is hilarious. So I'm usually used to do this podcast and try to build confidence on people. It's like, no, we're all good for that. We can do this, blah, blah, blah. And now you come here, you're like, if your video is not working, it's because you're fucking boring. It's like, I love this because it's true. It's true. So how can we tell if our video is boring, or like, how can we do about it?
Okay, so here, I'm going to give you some tips. Okay, friends? Yeah. Here's what we need to do. Right now, I am looking into the camera. Okay. If I were looking at Alex's eyes on my screen, I would be looking down here. Hi, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Hi.
That feels disconnected. And now Alex has looked up at the camera. So I'm feeling connected to him, right? One thing you need to do is practice looking at that camera right there. And the reason that it matters is because then people feel like you're speaking to them. So that's one thing. Another thing is, if you speak quickly, like me, you need to practice pausing, because as I was taught by the amazing Michael Port, if you have ever listened to his podcast or not listened to his podcast, please do, although it is for professional speakers, but he is one listen to. What we do is we actually process information in the pause. And that's why the pause is so important. So if you're on video and you're looking over here at yourself on the screen and you're talking really quickly about things that may not, be relevant to the audience, or they're trying to process information and they just can't because you're talking so fast, you're really not helping them at all. Like, that's not helpful. So right. The most important thing is to be very concise, know what you want to say and say it. And the best example that I can give is, think about this. On Facebook, you can send a 20-second video. Lots of people don't know this. I love the Facebook videos. And generally, I send one. You get 20 seconds. It may not feel like very long, but what it does is it forces you into a container so that you actually have boundaries. And you need to practice, and you have the privilege of practicing over and over again, because you can just delete those if something doesn't go well. And so getting your message into 20 seconds is so important and valuable. And if you can be expressive in that amount of time, people will respond. And I often get, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do this. In fact, the most hilarious thing, I get these videos back, people hold up and they're like, okay, so I've never done this video before, but this is so cool. I'm going to try it now. Well, how neat is it that I've offered a space for somebody else to learn how to connect in a new way, even if I've never met them before? And I get those videos very frequently. So right. The power that video has is so potent if you are willing to get it wrong, try again, watch your own videos. The worst thing ever is watch your own videos. You want to know if you're boring? Watch your own videos. Watch your own video. It's horrible. It's like gut wrenching. It's the worst thing ever to watch your own videos. And it's the thing that will help you grow the most, the fastest.
Right. That's so true. I mean, we've talked about this many, many times. And I was making a video the other day about how to, which by the way, I'll link it somewhere here because I think it's useful and it's really connected with this. It's all about like overcoming our emotional like stress about being on camera. And one big part is the moment of the recording where like you are there with the camera, you're looking at this weird object that you're not used to, you need to look nice, blah, 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 all these stupid things. But then also when watching the footage, there's a lot of emotional management that you need to go through because your voice doesn't sound like you're used to, because you look weird, because you're insecure, and then you see things that are not really on that video. So I really like that you are bringing this up, because this kind of like ties in this idea of like vulnerability that I was talking about. So do you think by showing ourselves on video, we're more likely to get people to engage with us, not just because of how they perceive ourselves as more honest, but because we're there and we're like kind of like vulnerable, so people are more open to share thoughts? What was your experience with that specific project?
So, okay, so there's two questions in here. One is about the project and one is about being on video and being vulnerable first. You know, video will have the most impact on people who are afraid to use it. Okay.
That was a dramatic pause right there, and that was really good. That was really good. That was really good.
So video will have the most impact on people who are afraid to use it. And it will have a different impact on people who love to use it. I hardly ever get videos. I get so excited when people send me videos. I'm like, all right? Because I have made, I use, so we use VideoAsk, I use Facebook video, and I use Dub as well. And I have, between those three platforms, I have sent thousands of videos. And so when someone sends them back, it feels so personal. And when somebody is willing to be, brave and a little vulnerable, just like I shared a moment ago, when they hold their cell phone up and record for the first time and they're like, oh, I don't know if I got this right. Those are the moments when I go, wow, like I feel really special because somebody has trusted me with their vulnerability.
Right.
So there's that. And then there's also, Alex, this piece about how we used it in our project. So one of the most important things within the TransNav project, that's the name of it, TransNav, is that people were able to see me and hear me first. And I said to them, I'm not a trans person. I'm an ally. I'm part of the LGBT community, but I'm not trans. And I don't know what it's like to be trans, but I can only imagine what it's like. And I would like to help make your lives easier. Suddenly they're like, oh, really? I mean, I publicly say, I don't know what it's like to hate my body parts. I mean, I quite enjoy having breasts. I don't know what it's like to hate my body parts. But I have hired a number of people who are trans, who are transitioning, who are non-binary, who are gender fluid. And we figured it out in a really tough environment, in an overnight summer camp environment. And so having that experience, being able to say, hey, I actually have trans members of my family, and being part of the LGBT community, and being willing to step out and say, I want to do something to help you, that takes a lot, right? It takes a lot because it's not normal. Not because I want to be a superhero, but because it's not normal. It's not common. Okay. And so when I say normal, very quotation marks, right?
Yeah.
But also in the definition of the word, I mean, people don't walk around going, oh, I don't know what it's like to hate my body parts. So when somebody outright says that on video, you take them for their word. You can get to know them, right? And so although I may not know the people who answered because they were all anonymous, what I do know is that people may feel like they know me a little more now, right? And that's the power of that in that context.
Which would have never happened if you were reaching out through a landing page, for example. And I think that's a key takeaway from that, whether you're building like a community or like a business, video, regardless of if it's asynchronous or asynchronous, regardless if it's like video messaging, like you can do with VideoAsk, or if it's like live stream, like on YouTube, Twitch, or like a Zoom call, it just makes that big difference. And I really like how you clearly express like how this vulnerability and like this, you know, putting yourself out on the open can actually do to your relationships and to your business, which is like what influencer marketing has been doing for like the last 10 years maybe. And now we're realizing that like every business owner can like leverage that way of interacting with their customers and audience to their benefit and for their business, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, we've come to a point where people, you know, it was interesting when we were able to put a video on a landing page. It's not interesting anymore. It's expected. It's strange if you don't have that. It's not common for an entrepreneur to choose to communicate through video after that. And that's where the power of video lies, in personal messages. Right.
I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff. We talked about why communities matter, what can they do to your business, how can you build like more honest and solid relationships. And I feel like before we wrap it up, I want to ask you something like very specific. So if anyone is interested in building start building a community, where should they start? Like what are the first steps or like the key elements that we need in place in order to start building our community?
So the first thing is, community isn't just a group somewhere. Okay. So it's not just a group. It's the people that you have around you. It's your network. And you will have within your larger community different networks of people. And so it's important to recognize which part of that you are trying to build. And one way that you can build your community is actually by asking somebody to contribute to you. Now, I know that there's a big belief that you should like give first, give. And believe it or not, when you ask, you actually give somebody else the opportunity to give. And when you receive really beautifully and graciously, you're actually contributing to your community.
Right. So if, let's say tomorrow I want to start building my community and start connecting my customers or start connecting my audience so they can help each other, what would be my first step?
Oh, so it's super easy. Just put a post up somewhere. And if you can do it in video, always do it in video and say, hey, I'm interested in connecting people that don't normally get connected. Who is it that you would love to meet? What kind of person? What are you looking to build? What do you need support with? I would love to connect people in my community. Super simple. That was like less than 10 seconds. And you put it up. And then you have to be responsible, because there will be people who ask for connections that you will not want to connect. And so I'm also going to give you a tip on how to deal with that. Is that okay, Alex?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So let's say you put this post up, you put this video and say, I'd love to connect to my community. And there's somebody that you're like, oh, dang, I can't deal with this person. I know they're going to see this. You make a plan in advance. Here's the plan. You say to them, oh, well, here are some great resources that I would love to point you towards. So you don't make an actual introduction, maybe because you know that they haven't done well with other introductions, or you don't want to necessarily open your community to them. But remember, community isn't just people. Sometimes community means resources. And so what you do is say, oh, you want to learn how to be better on video? Hey, let me introduce you to, and then you reference somebody like Justin Demers, who has been on this podcast.
He's been there, yeah.
Or if somebody says, hey, I'd really love to like use video in my business, but I don't know how, I might say to them, oh, you know what? VideoAsk is definitely what I would recommend. And so then I send them your link. And so the way that we can build community, again, is not just people, but resources. So that's a way that if somebody asks for an introduction, you can give them a resource. And if they don't take you up on it, that's up to them. I only make introductions to people that I know will respect those introductions. That's one thing. Now, if I have somebody come out of the blue and ask me for an introduction, which sometimes happens, especially if I'm in a Facebook group. So an example of this might be somebody posted in one of the groups I was in recently, Alex, and said, hey, I'm looking to have like custom journals printed and shipped, right? We'll do the design work, but we don't do the print and ship. Right. So what I would say to them is, oh, I can introduce you to Moo. That's our printer. So I might introduce them to somebody at Moo, but then I'll let my account manager at Moo know, hey, I actually don't know this person personally, but they've asked for an introduction in a group. So I don't know how this is going to go. Right. So I'm managing expectations on both sides. I will also then speak to somebody in our fulfillment house and say, hey, this person posted in a Facebook group. I don't know them personally, so I can't vouch for them at all. Just wanted to make an introduction in case you're looking for some more business. Okay. So I'm managing. And I always do those by video so that people can see my expression. When I'm making introductions, if I can, I do them by video. I don't always. But instead of just saying, oh, Alex meet Twist, Twist meet Alex, have a great day.
We would have a great day, to be honest.
Well, you and I would have a great day. It's true. It's true. And one day we will when I come to the Canary Island, right? But if it's just two names, like, why are you introducing me, right? And the worst yet, in my opinion, when I get introductions that are like, hey, so Twist meet Hadib, Heeb meet Twist, you'll have a great conversation. About what, right? And so when we make introductions, well, what I would love to see the world do is what I do. And somebody did it for me in a small way. And then I made it, of course, this big twist thing where I was like, let's be even bigger, because that's part of our brand and our personality. So I would say, hey, I might say, let's see, who might I introduce you to? I'm thinking of my wonderful friend, Samantha Riley. Okay. She's in Australia. You're in the Canary Islands. So I would say, hey, Alex, I would love for you to meet Samantha Riley. She has this amazing podcast. We have been in a mastermind group together for this long, and her students would actually really benefit from VideoAsk. Would love to that's why I'm making this introduction.
Yeah.
Samantha, please meet Alex. He is one of the people who works and you're one of the founders, I believe, of VideoAsk. And
no, not a founder. I'm running the brand.
You're running the brand. Okay. So this is Alex. He's running the VideoAsk brand. I know that this is what you're looking for. Here's why I think you might be a great fit. If either of you need me, here's how you can reach me. Have an awesome day. Right?
Nice. Yeah.
So it's really important to actually have those pieces of knowledge in place beforehand. Right?
Right. And I think it's funny because like we're all talking about literally relationships, and I got like many questions like when I give talks or like when I'm like sharing my thoughts or ideas like on events and stuff like that. I get this question all the time when I talk about communities, like, but where? But like, how do we do it? It's like, but Antolina, but like, should we go on Slack or like where? And I'm like, it's funny because like, I don't know. I usually my default answer is like, you build your community where your audience is already, because you don't want to give them like a more effort to like move somewhere else. But now I'm realizing that because of what you're saying, that it's all just about relationships and you don't even need a place. Of course, if you have a place, it just more spontaneous connections will happen. But I like how you think about community of just like literally like real life community, like just connections and people interacting with each other. And I think that's a great way to kind of like wrap this up.
We're connecting on the internet. We're connecting through the computer. But you are a real person sitting in a real chair, drinking out of a real glass of water on the other side of the ocean.
Right.
And you're a real person, and we could meet. And that's what we have to remember, right? We have to remember that there is a real person that we can connect with on the other side of the camera.
I don't think I'm gonna say anything else because that was a great even poetic way to like finish this episode. Twist, if people want to reach out to you, maybe they have questions or they want to know more about your projects, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. I am the only Alyssa Twist Light on Facebook. Please don't call me if you message me. Be like, hey, Twist, I heard you on the VideoAsk podcast. Here's my question. Better yet, send me a video on Facebook and I will send you one back.
Right. That's awesome. And if you have any other questions, if you're watching this, you find any other questions for myself or for Twist, just let it on the comments. If there's anything that we talked about that was like, spark your idea, please just feel free, be open like we are. You don't need to be on video because you can't on YouTube comments, but feel free to leave your questions. And I think that's it. Hoping you're already subscribed somewhere in the channel, because that way you'll be notified when we launch the next episode, in which I'll see you next time. Bye.